Hello, I'm Mike Davis, and I'm going to be talking here with David Burke, who's Director of Theater at Union University, about a unique one-man show that he wrote and starred in on the trial of Casey Jones. I had the opportunity of working with David and putting this show on videotape, and you're going to be seeing this show a little bit later. But before that, we're going to be talking with David a little bit about how he put the play together and some of the factors that were involved in its production. David, it's good to be talking to you again, and we appreciate you taking this time with us tonight.
I'm glad to be here.
David, how did you conceive this project, and where did it come from? What prompted you to put it together?
Well, really started working it out a couple of years ago. After I had been in West Tennessee for a couple of years, I got a phone call from the president of Union, Dr. Hiram Barefoot, and he is a member of the Rotary Club in Jackson, and he had just witnessed a one-man show on the origins of Boy Scouting. Well, in the audience at that time was the owner of Casey Jones Village, Clark Shaw, and as soon as that production was over, Clark approached Dr. Barefoot and said, "Now, this is exactly what I would like to have on the life of Casey Jones, so that we could put together a one-person show on his life to send out to civic organizations, schools, so on and so forth." And so I got a phone call from Dr. Barefoot suggesting that I would call Clark Shaw, get together with him and see if we could maybe come up with some kind of similar project that could be the one-man format that would be readily available to go out in West Tennessee and promote the person of Casey Jones.
David, just very briefly give us a synopsis of the play.
Well, basically, it's interesting because the name of the play is Casey's Last Ride, and you would think, well, Casey Jones should be the main character in the play, but in reality, Casey Jones is not even in the play. It's really a play that, in trying to put together the format of it, I was thinking in terms of what happened after the accident. So the play takes place after this tragic train accident that happened that April morning, 1900. And what it is, we set up a scenario that would be a hearing that takes place trying to establish blame, responsibility for the accident after the fact. And so it's set up this way with both sides being presented, and then the conflict of hashing it out to find out who really was responsible, and then ultimately coming up with a decision at the end.
David, in putting this project together, did you take any what they call dramatic license with the play?
Well, obviously, and I think you know this, from any time that someone has to take a story from history and then try to make a play or a movie or to dramatize it in some way, you're generally going to have to take a little bit of dramatic license. And so, although we tried to stay as historically accurate as we possibly could with the different characters in the play, the information of the play, I was forced to make some slight changes. I'll give you an example of one. One of the characters in the play that represents Casey's family and the relationship that Casey had with his family is his oldest son, Charles. So Charles becomes one of the testifiers or witnesses in the hearing. And in reality, at the time of the accident, Charles was only 12 years old, and so the license that I took here was aging him up a little bit, making him to where he was a teenager, 18 or 19 years old, and allowing him then using Charles then to give the Casey's family relationship in the play.
David, I know you've done this in front of civic groups, you've done it in the theater, then we come along and we do this. It's on video, but we do it as if it's a one-camera Hollywood movie type shoot. Did this present any specific problems for you as an actor?
Well, that's an interesting question, because in some ways, there's a big difference between doing something live, a performance live, and then doing it in front of the camera. And I think doing it in front of the camera at times can be both a rewarding experience and then one that's very frightening. I'll talk to you a little bit about that. you know, obviously when you're doing something live, you have the build, you're building like laying building blocks, building towards some emotional peaks or climactic moments, and so you have the incentive going that allows you then to be able to build towards that moment. Your emotional level keeps building logically on top of one emotion, building logically on top of the next one, and that allows you then to be able to get to those more emotional moments in the script. When you're doing it in front of the camera, you don't have that luxury, because obviously you're building an emotion and all of a sudden you hear the word cut and it's time to stop, and then you have to straighten some technical problem that you might have had out and then go right back into it, trying to resurface that emotion. And it's very difficult sometimes to try to pump it back up or find a way to get back to the same level of performance that you were just before you broke.